Hi, everybody. This is Richard Shelp with Executive Speakers, and this is the 9th edition of Behind the Curtain. As you know, in Behind the Curtain, we tell you a little secret about one of our favorite speakers, and we teach you something that can help you in the speaking business. Today's guest is Ben Gleib. Ben is an actor, stand-up comedian, TV host, and a speaker, and literally, he's got all of that going on. He was the host of Idiotest, which is an outstanding game show and was Emmy-nominated. And he has been called one of the top stand-up comedians by many different organizations, including TBS. And he got his start on Chelsea Lately. He's got a huge background, wonderful person to have with us today. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you so much, Richard. So good to be with you.
Oh, we absolutely love having you here. And what is so amazing to me is as you said earlier in the day, there's thousands of people in the speaking business right now, but very few of them had a true fear of getting up in front of people and speaking. Now, you, on the other hand, had that fear as a young person. And can you talk a little bit about what you experienced and kind of how you overcame all that?
Absolutely, yeah, because so many people say that public speaking is their biggest fear.
Yes.
And then people go as professional speakers, and that's a rarely addressed topic because they're speakers and they don't think twice about it.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, you know, I have more of a touch for the common man, and you're welcome.
That's funny.
And so, I mean, I grew up, I always knew I wanted to be a comedian and entertainer and a TV host since I was a child. Since I was about 5 or 6 years old, I knew I wanted to do that. And my physiology just was not in concert with that because since I was a kid, I had a speech problem, a pretty severe one. It was beyond even a stutter. It was a stutter and a disfluency as well, where my vocal cords would lock up. And so I couldn't even like say hi to a friend I'd pass in the hallway. I couldn't even make sound come out when I wanted to. Many letters to begin words that would approach certain hard sounds, V's and M's and B's. I couldn't do it.
Oh my goodness.
I had to see speech therapists throughout my whole childhood, and they would give me techniques to use, and they wouldn't really work on me because I knew a big part of my issue was psychological.
Yes.
There was something going through my head that would create incredible anxiety, make me lock up, and just get beyond nervous to speak in front of people. And I obviously overcame that. That goes without saying. Well, actually, it doesn't. It goes with saying. If I didn't say it, I'd still have the problem.
Well, now, what was the most important thing for you in overcoming it? If you had to put a label on it as this was what made the biggest difference, what would you say it was?
I mean, it's a number of things, and I do a talk actually about that called Conquering the Fear and Mastering Public Speaking, where I dive deep into a lot of the different ways I learned to cure that and can help people cure it for themselves where they don't even get the least bit nervous when they speak in front of people.
Yes.
But one of the biggest things I realized was that we completely see public speaking in a very flipped way. We see it incorrectly. So firstly, we think that people are expecting to see a great orator up there.
Right.
We think we're expecting to see, when we take the stage, that they're anticipating Martin Luther King Jr. or Barack Obama up there.
Or Tony Robbins.
Or Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And they're not. People have very low expectations. You got to remember that. People are barely paying attention to you. And if they are, they're maybe hoping to get a nugget of what you're saying, not how you're saying it.
Yes.
So that alone should just melt away so much of your anxiety. Just because you're raised on a stage speaking into a microphone doesn't mean what you're saying is any more important than anything anybody else does at their job.
Very good point.
It's exactly what everyone does. You're serving fries at McDonald's, or you're an executive assistant in an office, or whatever your job might be. You're just playing a role. And just because you're elevated and amplified does not mean you're still not playing a role. It doesn't make you any better. In fact, maybe if you had to quantify the value of people's jobs, maybe it's less important. Like, people need to eat. They don't need to hear your talk. It's not life or death.
By the way, if you're a client that's purchasing things, do not listen to what Ben just said.
Yeah.
Well, so when did you know that you had conquered it? Where there was probably a moment in time or a time that you could point to where you said, okay, I've totally conquered everything. When and where was that?
You know, I had the problem on and off throughout even all of my college experience. And I had a TV show in college too called The Gleib Show, late night talk show.
Oh, wow.
And I still on air would hit blocks a lot. And I just got more and more comfortable with not letting it bother me and not letting it make me nervous. And then I was selected to speak at my college graduation at UC San Diego in front of 6,000 people. And I just realized I keep getting chosen to do these things despite the issue.
Yeah.
I must be pretty good at it. I must not have an issue. And I just spoke flawlessly in that speech. And from there on, it was generally never an issue again. Now, there is something physiologically in my system that locks up sometimes. So it even came back one time in an episode of Chelsea Lately.
Oh, did it
Chelsea
really?
Handler
Okay.
live on the air. But I call it my rope-a-dope episode because I couldn't speak at one point for like a whole minute. I kept trying to restart my sentence and I couldn't. And the whole crowd's laughing at me. And Chelsea and Bobby Lee and Joe Coy are all laughing at me. And it was like almost like being made fun of in the schoolyard all over again. But I now had a different set of tools to be able to handle it and twist it. And I just stayed calm and knew it was about to pass. I take a deep breath. My vocal cords will open up again. And I'll be all good. And I relaxed and came back with some huge, strong jokes and then just crushed the audience. Ended up winning in a huge way, because that's another big secret is you have to know that there's no real time pressure on it.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, like if you notice that I just did now, the longer the pause, the more powerful.
Yes.
I was earlier speaking and rambling through, but if you use the power of silence, it brings everybody in. So the silence is actually your friend. It's actually a power. So if you ever are stuck in your head or get caught or not sure what to say next or lose your place, in your head, you're like, oh no, 5-alarm fire. But in reality, it's actually the most powerful part. I've sometimes lost my place in speech, and then in my head, I'm just freaking out, and then I'll say the next thing, and then I get off stage, and people say, that part where you paused for 10 seconds was so powerful.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even trying to be powerful. So it really shows you how people, again, see it flipped. They see it wrong. You know, another big thing that people see wrong is that not only is it not more important when you're speaking in front of people? Very valuable, Richard. If your client's listening, it's very valuable.
Yes.
People need the speeches,
yes,
no
they
doubt.
do. Just so you know that.
I'm just saying it's not more important than food. Make sure you're fed first and then come see
or
these
you can
great
do
talks.
both at the same time.
You can.
Yes.
You can. In fact, audiences often are. They're eating snacks, looking at their phone, barely listening. So you're there to provide a service like any other job. You're not some god up on stage as the all-important speaker. That's the main message there. But people see it so wrong. They think that every pause, everything they're saying is so scrutinized. Not only do people have low expectations, but just think about in the grand scheme. We don't know all the answers of the universe, but we know we're literally floating in outer space, a speck, a tiny marble floating in this vast, unknowable, ever-expanding universe. You think what you're saying on stage really matters that much where you should be nervous about it? Furthermore, you think how you're saying that thing matters? You think in the grand scheme there's any importance on your delivery style? It's all just flavor, it's spice. So just have fun with it, but don't think it's so important. Just let all tension melt away. So when I did that, I got to a place where I can now step on stage in an arena opening for Dane Cook or Chelsea Handler in front of 12,000 people in an NBA or NHL arena, and my heartbeat doesn't raise 1 beat a minute. I can step onto the stage of the Today Show on NBC with Kathy Lee and Hoda or Jenna Bush live in front of 4 million people watching. And I'm almost bored by it. My heart rate doesn't raise a beat because it should be exactly like living in your life. I agree. And what's really interesting to me in what you talked about through that is one of the things when I was early on being asked to do a speech for people or whatever, come in, speak for 20 minutes or do whatever. One of the things that really helped me, and I never was terribly nervous, but it would get rid of any butterflies that I would ever have, is just what you were talking about, understanding that you have the control. You're the person that's in control. Right. And a couple of times I would purposely slow down just to see how the audience would react. And I would see, oh my gosh, if I decide to take 20 minutes rather than 15 minutes, well,
they have to sit there and wait.
Right.
It's all on me. It's me. And it's not them. And because you have the control, it really takes care of a lot of the nervousness.
100%. You're in the driver's seat.
Yes.
And most people are not nervous when they're driving. They're nervous as a passenger because somebody else is in control.
That's exactly it.
But when you're in control, you're the boss. You're all good. You set the tone. And, that's a big secret that also comedians learn. And you really learn so much about the dynamics of public speaking as a stand-up comedian because you're put in the trenches. You're going against drunks and people who are partying and bachelorette parties and people that are just loud and barely paying attention and actively heckling you sometimes. So you learn all the tricks. But there's a great trick that taught me the power of silence also. I learned luckily early as a comedian. So the worst time to be on stage is the check drop spot. It's at the end of a night.
Everybody's.
They bring the check and everybody now isn't paying attention. They're paying. Hey, you owe me $8. And people are talking and mumbling. And amateurs try to talk over it.
Oh, yeah.
Amateurs try to be louder to dominate over that. And that's the death knell. The secret during the check drop spot or anytime a crowd gets loud is to say nothing, because then suddenly everybody...
Take a drink of water.
Yeah, take a drink of water, take a pause, and suddenly everybody's like, oh, they're going to hear me talking. They quiet down. And just like that, all of a sudden, you have the audience wrapped again. And it's gotten to a place where I'll play an arena, and I can put a strategic pause into a joke and have an arena of 12,000 people to a pin drop silence before I hit them with a bait and twist punchline, and they erupt like a nuclear explosion of laughter from the center, from the nucleus, just...
And it would never happen
exploding.
otherwise.
It would not. You have to be... It's amazing that little bit of confidence. Like an amateur comedian might have a great joke, but if they rush it, or they smile or laugh at their own joke, or don't let the audience know that they can trust their punchline, they won't trust their punchline. It's a major difference. It's that little bit of confidence. Because confidence is acting as if. It's always acting as if.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt.
You wouldn't need confidence if you were 100% certain something was going to go well, because you're 100% certain. Confidence is irrelevant. You only need confidence when you're not positive something's going to go well. So confidence in and of itself is made up. So as long as you just believe it's going to go well, believe you have the skills, faking confidence, faking it till you make it, is actually all confidence is. It's having confidence when you don't know for a fact. There might not be some factor that'll throw you off, but you believe it'll go well anyway. That's what confidence is.
Well, I'm going to have to remember that I'm not going to tell people that I'm confident in something after you just said that. But you've already done so much as far here in the last few minutes in teaching people some really important things. So you as speakers are already getting some great teaching tools. But I do also want to focus on one other little area that you've talked about. Obviously, you do a lot of improvisation in whether it's your speeches, your comedy acts, etc. Can you tell them how you improvise during a presentation?
Yes, and? Yes, I can, sure. Listening is everything. It's the key to great speaking. It's the key to being a good conversationalist. It's the key to great acting, great hosting. People think it's in what you say, and that's far less important. It's really in paying attention. And the key to being a good improviser is just really two things: deeply listening, paying attention to every detail of what the person or people or audience you're speaking to are feeling, wanting. It's riding the wave of the energy. It's not going in with your same rote, prepared style. It's having your style and being true to yourself, but then reading the room and seeing, oh, this room is a little slower and they want the more deliberate delivery. Oh, the energy's picking up. I'm going to pick up my pace to match it. You have to just really be so in the zone where you just, it's almost like you're the pitcher and catcher in a baseball game on your own, where you have to shake off the calls you don't want.
No fastball.
Yeah, no fastball. This audience needs a curve. Yeah. This audience needs a slider. You got to go a little bit of an angle at them. And you just have to really adjust and read exactly who your audience is moment to moment and adjust that. And the second key to it is just being unflappable, because you know, like I said earlier, even after a pause, even if you need a moment, that you can turn a moment around and win the situation as long as you stay in it. You have to never let them see you sweat is the only secret to great improv. I mean, it helps to have a fast brain, but if you're whatever time you have between the last thing you said and the next thing, do you want that time filled with neuroses of like, oh my God, this is going badly, or do you want it filled with, I know things are good, what can I say next? And you use that second or two or three to just think of the best thing to say rather than getting in your own head. And so it's about being really focused in the moment and knowing that you're going to be able to come up with something because you're not nervous, because you can't fail, because you're a human. You don't fail ever in conversation one-on-one. You know what to say. You just naturally are yourself.
Right.
And so you do the same. It's not different when you're on stage. You just have to be in the moment. I kind of analogize it to being a quarterback in a football game. You just have to trust that you'll be protected and you have your few seconds. And worst case, even if you have to roll out of the pocket, you roll out of the pocket, but you still got to make that pass. Now you have extra time to figure it out. You just have to trust. The only time you fail is if you then get nervous, and that's when you question yourself and you get tackled.
When you get sacked. Yeah.
That's when you get sacked. You have to just stay in the zone and know that it's going to flow and you'll be able to find a way to make it happen. And if you do get sacked, it's just, you have another down. It's okay. It's not the end of the world.
Well, what would you tell, because obviously there's people who are watching this today and they're speakers and they're like, okay, this guy is a stand-up comedian. He is built for handling adjustments. He's built for improvising.
He's one of the best in the world, top notch. Thank you for saying that.
Yes, absolutely. I think I just did, but Ben said it better.
Yeah.
But okay, so what as a basic everyday speaker can I do? What are a couple of little tricks that I can use to make sure I'm heading more in that direction in being improvisational? What can they do if they're not armed with as good a skill as you have?
Sure. So pausing is very important, but remaining confident during the pause, that's a very big tip. And another, my maybe best tip to make sure the audience knows you're confident and are still in control, is to make fun of yourself if you make a mistake. Or if you say something wrong, but do so in a confident way. So there's a major difference. And one of the biggest ways why I rarely ever bomb when I perform or deliver a joke is if the joke doesn't land, I make fun of myself in such a confident way where they see it doesn't affect me, it doesn't flap me in any negative way, so they know they can still trust me.
Yes.
So an amateur comedian or speaker or presenter might tell a joke and no one laughs and they go, oh boy. Anyway, well, that's death now because they see now that you're done. You went from being in charge and the boss and the driver's seat, the quarterback, to the pitcher, to you're on the bench. You shouldn't be there. You're an amateur.
You're in the trunk of the car.
Exactly. You're in the trunk of the car being kidnapped, taken to a desert somewhere, about to be thrown into a ditch in the desert. Big shift from where you were as the star a moment ago. Instead, you can make fun of yourself in a way with confidence that lets them know you don't care that it happened, so therefore they don't care, they shouldn't care. And then everybody immediately laughs because you've addressed the awkwardness, but they know you're still in charge. So if I tell the joke and it doesn't work, I would instead of going, oh boy, anyway, I would go, wow, that's the last time I'm going to tell that joke. And you laugh.
There you go.
Because you can tell that I know what they know, but I don't care. It's fine. Wow, I'll even get more elaborate. I'll be like, I'm going to write that joke down, put it in my pocket, and then later on burn those pants. I mean, you can just make fun of yourself, but in a way where they still see you have the same level of control. It's a major tip.
That is a huge tip. I absolutely love that. The thing that I think is just truly incredible about it is because, yes, if you turn it around and you make them feel like, well, I was probably stupid not to laugh at that joke to begin with, and
totally.
then they're already backtracking. And you, I'm sure, have used that, haven't you, in many times when you're doing your comedy act.
Absolutely. You can do that too. You can say to the crowd, that one was better than you guys realize.
There you go.
And then they laugh at that and they start, trusting you more.
Yeah.
That absolutely works as well. And just one other thing to keep in mind as far as a tip to remind yourself of that'll help melt your nerves away is, like we not only said, do people have the opposite perceptions about speaking, it's in fact really easier mathematically even to speak in front of crowds than it is one-on-one. So most people are pretty relaxed in normal conversation. You're at Starbucks, you make an order, you're not worried about how your barista is going to receive you, right? But it actually mathematically is much more, should be more nerve-wracking to speak one-on-one, because you need to be 100% successful or you fail. If that one person you're speaking to is bored by you, you lose that interaction.
Yes, you do.
But if you're speaking to a crowd of 100 people, if you even have 60 of them paying attention, you win.
Yes,
if
you do.
60 people laugh, that's a great response. If you have 1,000 people and only 300 are laughing at a joke, that's going to sound like you're killing and a huge laugh, and now you're only 30% successful. So mathematically, it's easier to speak to a crowd. You have more leeway. You just need some people super engaged, and the rest will at least feel like, oh, okay, I need to pay attention to this. Like they're missing something.
I really need you to do a class for our company, because I can tell you, as we discussed at dinner last night, literally there's probably 2/3 of our organization are not comfortable with having that any kind of discussion, any kind of presentation in front of more than 1 or 2 people.
I would be happy to do it. And since you represent me as a speaker, you know my rates. So call you and please negotiate the best deal you can, and I'll be there.
I'm going to negotiate with myself a great deal.
I love that. I feel like I'm going to lose that negotiation
Yes, you will lose
and
it.
win.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Well, I love your answers today, your input, really your inspiration for those speakers out there, and your ability to overcome a fear that you had and not just be accomplished, but be a huge success in your area, which is absolutely great. So thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. And anybody that has any follow-up questions, I'm pretty accessible on social media too. So you can follow me at Ben Gleib on Instagram or X or any of these platforms. And if I have a moment, I'll reply to your question, and I'm happy to, because I want to help people excel at what they do out there.
Perfect. And you guys, thank you for your attention, and you stay tuned for future episodes as you can truly find out what is behind the curtain.
Also, you guys should get curtains.
Yes, we should get curtains.
Behind.
We should. I would love that.
It'd be a nice effect.
I would love that. Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.